All right, it is 10 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting to order. Certify that we do have an agenda. All 5 members are present. Item number 2 is opening prayer. Ricky, you mind leading us in an opening prayer? And following that, Commissioner Hollowell, will you lead us in the pledges? Would everybody please rise?
Let's pray. Our Father, we're thankful today for the privilege that we have to come together once again. We thank you, Lord, for your watchful care over us. We pray today, Father, that you'd give us wisdom and guidance as we seek to take care of the business of the county and of its citizens. We pray for wisdom and guidance. Help us, Father, to be found doing those things that are pleasing with you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 5 is public comments, and I don't believe we have anybody signed up. Item number 6 is deliberate and consider possible approval of a resolution proclaiming May 7th, 2020 as National Day of Prayer in Cooke County. And that proclamation reads, since our nation's earliest days, prayer has been a strength and comfort for Americans of all faiths. Our founding fathers relied on their faith to guide them as they built our democracy. Today, we continue to be inspired by God's blessings, mercy, and boundless love. As we observe this National Day of Prayer, we humbly acknowledge our reliance on the Almighty, express our gratitude for His blessings, and seek His guidance in our daily lives. Congress calls upon all citizens to reaffirm their role in the role of prayer in our society and to honor freedom of religion by annually recognizing a National Day of Prayer. Now, therefore, we, the Cooke County Commissioners Court, hereby proclaim May 7th, 2020, shall be recognized as National Day of Prayer in Cooke County, and we ask upon citizens of the county to give thanks, each according to his or her own faith, for the liberty and blessings that we have received and for God's continued guidance and protection. All citizens are urged to take a moment and observe this year's prayer, which is focused on God's glory across the earth. Signed this, the 20th day of April, 2020.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hollowell. Second by Commissioner Snuggs.
I got a question.
Sure.
Wasn't that supposed to be in the packet?
It didn't make it in because the version that we were originally sent still had the gathering on the courthouse lawn, and that was seen right before it was sent out. That's probably not what we want to do in these times of social distancing.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passes 5-0. Item number 7 is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any items they wish to pull?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Commissioner John Clement.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leon Clement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passes 5-0. Item number 8 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding nationwide retirement solutions plan, election of CARES Act provisions. Elizabeth, you want to speak to this? You want to grab his microphone so that.
Okay, so a portion of the new CARES Act allows changes to the normal loan and distribution rules for our 457 plan. So there's 2 election options, and the page should be in your packet, I believe, there. And the 2 elections, the court can choose to either accept them or decline them. The first would allow a participant affected by COVID-19 to take a distribution up to 100% or $100,000 and waive the 10% early withdrawal fee, and then the income tax they could pay over 3 years over a 3-year period. And typically, you can only take a withdrawal for a hardship or when you leave employment. And then the second election would allow a participant affected by COVID-19 to loan up to $100,000 or 100% of their account balance, with payments suspended for up to 1 year. And typically, they can do only 50% of their account balance. So it gives them a little more leeway in what they can take a distribution on or loan.
Corrected date.
And this is on the 457 plans, which are entire employee contribution. There's no county contribution to that.
And if we do both options, then it just allows them to make a choice if they want to.
Yes.
Do what? I'd make the motion if you're not going to.
We've got a motion to elect to include both provisions by Commissioner Hollowell.
Second.
Seconded by,
That's what you want to do, right?
seconded by Commissioner Leon Clement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0.
We'll let him
Yeah,
say.
we've got it corrected, the date was wrong on
It was
the,
wrong. The one we passed had the wrong date on it.
it had 2019 instead of 2020, so.
We prayed a year ago. Now we're praying.
I can't hear, say it again.
I said the
Corrected
first one
date.
had the wrong date on it.
oh.
We approved what we prayed for last year. Now we're.
The date was wrong on the signed copy, it was 19 and not 20.
See, that's why it needs to be in the packet, then we catch that stuff. So the one on the outside is the one you got to
Yeah,
sign,
just-
John, not the
yeah.
one on the inside.
Yeah, that one's a good one. Don't worry about that one. Yeah, just hand it back. Yeah, we'll do that swap here in a minute. Item number 9 is deliberate, consider possible action regarding ETJ agreements and subdivisions. This had kind of come to fruition out of a conversation that Commissioner John Clement and I were having. I don't know, John, if you wanted to speak to what you're dealing with and kind of why it may be pertinent to potentially make some changes on one or both of these agreements going forward.
Well, right now, Southridge, the final phase of that subdivision's going through, and the city of Lindsay has the ETJ, and it's my understanding that the county does not approve the plat on that subdivision since Lindsay has the ETJ. So there's confusion. You know, the roads, the city right away, we don't want the roads, those are going to be county responsibility. But then again, the drainage and runoff is controlled by the city without any input from the county. So for future recommendations, I think we need to revisit our subdivision guidelines. We need to somehow have the county have more control with these developments like this. I understand from talking to other individuals, other counties, they basically take over the responsibility of the subdivision regardless of the ETJ. So I don't know if that's a true statement or not. Something we need to look at and change our regs. Right now, I met with the Icon engineer, and then they had an inspector out, and they were going to check the compaction rate of the roads. I will need to see what regs they're looking at, because I thought we changed the verbiage in our regs about 6 inches minimum base. I thought we increased that to at least 8 inches. I think they're going off old regs. I've been thinking about our conversation last week, and I was not about this week for me to look that up, so.
I think it says to engineer
It
specs
says to-
for,
It has the minimum still in it. Because here was the way it was said. They had the gentleman doing the dirt work, and they said, well, the base, it's a 6-inch minimum. Oh, no. you're supposed to be doing soil samples, you're supposed to be seeing what the compaction rate is, you're supposed to be testing the rock from the quarry to verify how many inches of base needs to be put down. They were fixing to just go 6 inches of base, which I was afraid when we initially talked about all this, in the past. I know how our subdivisions are with all the ones that y'all have been dealing with, and y'all have been able to hire an outside firm. I'm kind of in a position that I can't go to the developer because the city of Lindsay is the one approving the plat. So this is a different animal. So right now, they're going to be providing me all their engineering specs, what their compaction rate was, and then they're going to be inspecting it with an outside group. And I got his card. He's out of Ardmore, the company, that he's going to come in and do the inspections as they go. So I'm open to any suggestions from the group.
Now, on just kind of a bigger question on some of this is, and to add to what John was saying, what you're seeing is on most of our subdivision agreements, or ETJ agreements, excuse me, with a lot of the entities, it allows for the cities to be responsible for the plats in those ETJs. I think that varies greatly from one county to the other. I don't think there is any prevailing one way or the other, and I think it can vary within that county because not all of ours are one way versus the other. But those agreements, and it was pushed out, most of those agreements were pushed out 10, 15 years ago or more, and we've got a standard agreement. But the situation like this, where if you've got a road inside that ETJ, which an ETJ, just to go back a little bit for public consumption here, an ETJ is the extraterritorial jurisdiction of a municipality. And depending upon the size of the municipality, depends upon how far that is out. From Gainesville's is a mile, everybody else in Cooke County is a half a mile. But you get in a situation where the city doesn't have any plans to take the road. They're more concerned about the drainage, but they don't have any plans to take the road. So that road, in that case, has a higher likelihood of becoming a county road. The city tells the developer, go build out the county specs, but there's no agreement in there that they have to follow our same protocols as far as engineering, as far as bonds and all of those. So we probably want to look at modifying these ETJ agreements to say, in the event that the city does not plan on accepting the road after or right upon completion, that it needs to follow county specs and refer exactly to which provisions in the subdivision agreements that'll be triggered, which is the same bonding requirements and the same inspection requirements and everything else. Or we need to have a more difficult conversation in coming out with who's governing ETJs. But this was kind of we saw it coming, but at the same time, you can't really do anything on the back end with the agreement in place now with regards to most of the cities in this particular situation. But that's just a little bit more explanation on where we're at now and possible ways to address this going forward.
So Lindsay is telling you how to do the drainage and approving the plat, but then they're taking a hands-off approach to the road. They have no engineering principles for the roads at all? Because I think in Lindsay, they're making them do concrete now.
They're making them do, they told the developer you got to meet county specs, which is well and good, but if they control the plat requirements.
That's good faith, isn't it?
Yeah, then we don't have any enforcement or anything that triggers our authority because we ceded that authority to the cities.
How do they get a cherry pick?
Well, therein lies the question, doesn't it? So that's why we need to come in and figure out a way to rewrite these agreements to
Why don't you go with your first scenario? We simply rewrite the agreement that says, hey,
If you're not planning on accepting this road, then, or maybe, maybe we broaden that because there very well may be scenarios where a city does not plan like this one. It's in their ETJ, but it's not easily accessible by city services, so they don't have any probably short-term or even moderate-term plans on annexing any of that or trying to annex that into the city.
so they waived their authority.
But if it was just on the north side of the city, if it was right next to where they're hooked up, they may say, hey, yes, we would love to have it. So how do we need to rewrite our ETJ agreements to address that, I guess.
But that to me is pretty simple, but I don't think we rewrite subdivision.
No, I don't know that you rewrite, I think you rewrite ETJ agreements to address that, and then whenever ours control, refer to in the agreement that it controls and push back to what sections control.
Don't they have, doesn't their ETJ follow several roads outside of town pretty far?
Yeah, it,
Out north?
it takes in probably state right-of-way for
Nearly
several different directions, I
Out on
think.
1200, nearly out to the
Yeah.
rock crusher.
Yeah. A lot of cities do that, not just Lindsay. I think both Valley View and Gainesville do it on I-35, and they
I-35,
meet
I
at
knew
Spring
they
Creek.
did that. Yeah.
I mean, the choice is ours, not to accept them. If you're not going to follow our guidelines,
Yeah.
including the drainage specs, we're just simply not going to accept them, and that's your fallback position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we don't have to accept the road.
That's right.
Yeah.
They see that's, I guess, would be the,
That's your fault.
That's your
We've got
best-
a built-in
That's your
cushion.
best enforcement mechanism
Your
is,
best
hey, you
enforcement
beat them,
since-
Just tell them, hey, we're not going to tell you straight up, we're not going to accept them if they don't meet our standards.
because one of the reasons for redoing, the biggest reason for redoing all of this business was about the substandard roads that deteriorate and turn into
Exactly.
nothing but a mess, and now you're in a limbo area here right away where,
I think you've got the leverage, go do what you want, make it pretty simple. If you expect us to accept them, then
you gotta build them to this standard.
Yeah.
build them to this standard. If you don't, we're not accepting them.
but then here's the flip side of the other addition to that. So in our regs, to keep everybody on the same page, we have an independent engineer come in and make sure, but we don't have that with this, do we? We have the authority to have that done here?
I
to-
think
can
you do
bring
that
one
in our
in, but
agreement and say, yeah, and let
You're
them pay
bringing
for
it in our subdivision regs, we're pushing that cost onto the developer. And I don't know that you're doing that without going through the subdivision regs. You don't have that involvement from the start part of it and the ability to charge them to bring in your own, outside of a separate agreement or something that you could do.
But if they follow our regs, that's in our regs,
Yeah, but,
The
right?
point Gary's making it that they're telling him they're following the county's regs on the road. So if they're following the county's regs on the road, part of that,
Is
your
to
point
do
is to
the-
pay for the engineer. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense. I'm not sure which regs they're going by. How long ago did he start on that subdivision? Because he was dealing with Laura.
Well, but if this is a new phase, it's a whole new beast, is what I understand.
Yeah.
He has
It
to
is.
follow current
but
subdivision. It wasn't platted.
they didn't approve, well, I'd have to go back and see, yeah, I mean, if they had to follow current,
But it didn't, we didn't get the plat, we didn't get anything, so how long has he been working on this?
Well,
The
but
city of
until he
Lindsay's been
submitted
looking
us
at it.
the current plat, this is like phase 3, isn't it?
or I think.
Yeah.
This is
But
4.
It wasn't platted, because
they
this conversation I think we've had before, it wasn't platted. So until it's platted,
Yeah.
it doesn't become part of that subdivision, it follows
So-
current guidelines.
Yeah, gotta
but
follow current guidelines.
did the city of Lindsay approve the plat? See?
They've already approved
See,
the
the
plat.
city of Lindsay approved the plat. We're not even getting to see it because the city is claiming it.
Well, it goes back to the city. City, if you want us to accept the roads, you got to follow our regs.
That's the
And-
question
And
here.
his leverage still is, I ain't taking it.
I know, I understand that. But here's the question. Who does it go to, the builder or the city?
Ultimately, the leverage goes to the builder. We're not taking it unless you meet our regs.
Well, I
See,
think,
that's interesting that there's been a plat developed, passed, the permission's been given to build something that they intend to give to us, and we haven't seen it.
Like I said, we've got the leverage.
well, I think that because we weren't, it's not filed with us, there is no trigger date for the county necessarily, like there is for the city. You know, if you're filing a plat on January 1st, that's a trigger date that, here are the rules, January 1st. That wasn't with us, that was with the city. So our look is, if you want us to accept roads, you go by what the standard is at the time you want us to accept roads, which is now, and so they should be going by the standards that are in our subdivision regulations at this moment. That's my take
I
on it.
agree. I mean, you know,
Have you been having conversations with Lindsay?
We had some conversations early on, what was that, a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever
You sent some emails out to Scott New, but we
we
didn't,
sat and talked with
I didn't sit down.
that,
We sat down and talked with
but the previous mayor.
Metzler,
Yeah,
Mr. Metzler.
Yeah, but we hadn't,
But there wasn't anything official or anything. And I was under the impression that we were going to be approving a plat. I was just misunderstood.
yeah,
I
they
thought-
didn't, they said that, I think what they approved was, they approved the plat, and then they said, go follow the county specs for the roads. But that was, you know, we never had an agreement with Lindsay on how all that was supposed to work.
I didn't
even
know
if
the
they
city,
did
I didn't
that,
know
our
the city
regs spell
of,
it out.
I didn't know the city of Lindsay could commit us to taking.
Well, they can't, but they can set a standard that they're asking a developer to go by, which is, I guess, the county standard instead of theirs.
And our standard was written,
And our standard is in our subdivision regs.
like I said, you got the leverage.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Do what?
That's what it says, yeah, because we
Well,
went
it
to
was.
I
that.
thought it was too.
Yeah, we changed that.
Even though the compaction rate's the important thing, I would think.
So with what I'm understanding, I need to go to the developer and say he's going to have to pay for our engineering firm to go over.
If he wants us to take the roads,
Yeah,
and there's your leverage.
that's your leverage.
And you don't have to change anything to do that.
Like I said, that was one of the biggies of this whole thing.
I know it was
Yeah.
one of the biggies.
But how are you supposed to know what's going on if nobody tells you?
Well,
Until it's built.
when it's not on something for us to review.
Yeah,
We're not involved
So
in it.
we're gonna have to redo, like you said, that ETJ agreements. At the very least, you gotta be aware of what's going on.
you know, in this instance, I really don't understand why Lindsay would be wanting to go in, like the drainage. Drainage is the issue on the roads, but that's their big factor, is they want to control the drainage. Well, they got a creek in between the city of Lindsay and this subdivision, so I don't understand why drainage is a big issue when it's something the county's got to deal with.
Well, it's all that water coming down that incline, and Lindsay has a tendency to flood, probably has something to do with it.
Floods what? So if any tin horns that's not the right size, whose responsibility is that whenever it gets taken out?
The county.
Well, it's drainage.
I know, that's what I'm saying. The drainage is all part of the roads, that's,
Believe me, I've been dealing with this ever since I've been the commissioner, fixing drainage problems out there, so. Well, I will reach out to Mr. Myrick.
And we need to work on revising our ETJ agreements to try to close the loophole there.
I don't know if there's really a loophole.
Well, it's the burden's on the city to communicate it to
Burden's
them.
on the city.
Yeah.
And if they tell them, go follow our guidelines, then,
Yeah.
so they waive their control of drainage.
But there still has to be a mechanism
To,
where they notify you, because they,
yeah.
We should be able to have some approval on the plat. It
Yeah.
shouldn't go through without Commissioners Court. seeing
Well,
everything and doing the final approval on
The
it.
simplest thing is if they don't immediately plan on taking the roads, then the plat runs through the county.
Yeah.
Because that way, I mean,
Seriously.
if they plan on annexing that
Then
upon
it's theirs.
completion, then that's
Yeah,
fine. That
that's
may need to
theirs.
be the trigger instead of assigning it one way or the other, a partial one way or the other, or something like you're, because you're inevitably going to get into communication issues whenever whenever they go off and approve a plat and we don't have a clue that, we know that it may be possibly there, but don't know at what stage they're at in the approval process.
Well, and it needs to be communicated. Just because we approve a plat doesn't mean we have to accept the
Yeah,
roads.
we don't.
So Lindsay, or any other community doesn't need to say, hey, go do this, county's gonna approve the plat, they're gonna take the roads. That's not true.
They don't have the ability to.
Our subdivision guidelines allow us now, outside of the incorporated areas, not to take the roads if we so choose. So we need to spell that out. If we go write something, we need to spell out this doesn't obligate us to take the roads.
Yeah, yeah. But I'll start working on what that markup might be like for ETJ agreements.
But right now, you have the leverage with your developer.
True.
Just, tell him up front.
But then again, it's kind of hard to not take that section of roads when a whole development has been accepted in the county.
Not true, not true. This is a new phase in an existing development. We've
It
taken
all-
those, but now he's doing this might as well be just like a new development as I understand it, because he's just platted it.
I think he means practically and not necessarily from the legal aspect, but practically, I think it makes it difficult to.
Yeah,
The practicality.
Well, but probably several of us, or we probably have several subdivisions within Cooke County that are not completed because that particular phase hasn't been platted.
Right.
And they were created under the old guidelines, okay? We changed those guidelines for a reason, so now when they come with the newer phase, they're gonna
They've
have to
gotta
meet the
follow
new
the newer
guidelines.
standards. Yep.
We're not going to accept the subpar roads that we have in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you have to change at some point, and you could have somebody out there that's got a section of land earmarked for a subdivision, but they've only developed, a fourth of it. And so now then they're gonna come in and say, well, we're gonna develop the other 3/4 and we're gonna follow the old guidelines because you've accepted that development.
Yeah, you treat them each independently, so.
So when the city has the ability to approve the subdivisions in the ETJ, is that simply so in their hopes of annexing?
That's the general thought is, and that's why you've got an ETJ anyway, is that's where it's their extraterritorial jurisdiction, which they have very limited. The statute says that the county and the city shall enter into an agreement on how to handle all that.
You would think by now that they would have already sucked Southridge in for the tax.
If that was the plan, but I think the problem is, how do you incorporate something that, and you gotta be able to provide its services within a reasonable amount of time.
Exactly.
And if all your infrastructure's on one side of a creek or a large structure, large geographical or geological issue, how do you provide without spending a lot of money to do it?
well, don't they now have to have the vote for the residents to be able to be brought into the city limits?
Yeah, now I think most small towns always have to do that, but now all municipalities have to, you have to have, it's only voluntary, you can't do forced annexation, so they would have to have a vote or sign on as part of the agreement or something like that, that they want to be annexed. So you're probably going to see a lot of cities growing much slower than just a few years ago, within the past 5 or 6 years, since some of that's kind of came into being.
There's got to be a little more incentive other than, we're going to get to pay city taxes now.
Yeah, that's where that city infrastructure is part of that.
Hey, John, you didn't put your last name on there. Just look at it.
Any other discussion on number 9? If not, we'll move on to number 10. Item number 10 is deliberate and consider possible approval of setting speed limits for Cooke County Constable Precinct 1 for
I
their
read speed limits too. It's
Speed
not
limits.
Speed limits.
Speed limits,
spending,
huh?
spending.
How
Read that
fast
the
are they,
first
how
time,
fast
too.
are they allowed to drive now?
I read that the same way the first time I read that. I had to go take a second look.
Spending limits. Let the record show that it is spending limits. We're not limiting the speed of the constables at this time. For the
Me
remainder
too, I don't know.
of calendar year 2020.
So moved.
Well, we have to set a limit
We got to set a limit.
Well, we know what the limit is.
for all these. So what this is, for background information for those that may not know, is the next 3 or 4 items are items that those positions will be changing over January 1, which is halfway through, or not halfway, but a partial way through fiscal year. So by law, we have to set a limit on what spending can be for those particular offices. And this is something we have done.
25% of the line item for the last quarter.
So
Or the
it's,
first quarter.
they
of the
can spend their full budget this year for the current fiscal year that we're in, and then for fiscal year 2021, since it's 25% of the actual budget year, we set the limits at 25%.
That's what we've done.
And they have to get court approval if they want to
And it's by
go.
line item, they have to get approval if they want
And
to.
they have to get court approval if they need to go over that.
So we finish out this budget year.
You finish out this budget year as is, as normally would, because all these offices, the person will be in it through the rest of that fiscal year. And then for 2021, since those positions are changing over at the end of the first quarter, and a quarter being 25%, we set those at 25%.
By line item, right?
By line item.
So moved again.
We have a motion for doing that on item number 10 by Commissioner Hollowell,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Leon Clement. All those, any further discussion?
That's not punitive to anybody.
That's
That's a state law.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to set that limit. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item number 11 is deliberate and consider possible approval of setting spending limits for Constable Precinct 2 for the remainder of calendar year 2020.
So moved.
Got the same setup by Commissioner Leon Clement,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Hollowell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item number 12 is deliberate and consider possible approval of setting spending limits for the Cooke County Sheriff for the remainder of calendar year 2020.
So moved.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Snuggs,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Leon Clement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item number 13 is to deliberate and consider possible approval of setting spending limits for Cooke County Commissioner Precinct 3 for the remainder of calendar year 2020.
I have a question.
Sure.
I guess I don't get to vote for this one.
I was gonna think that you'd abstain, just,
Yeah, I don't know if you don't, it may be the easiest call not to do, just don't vote.
I think I will abstain from it. That'll be,
Well, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Snuggs,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Hollowell. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
aye.
Got one abstention, being Commissioner John Clement for Precinct 3. Item number 14 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding annex remodel. We had, just to kind of fill everybody in, we did get well, there's nothing in the packet.
Nope.
We did get bids back, or not a bid, we got a contract or proposal back. Somehow that didn't get in the packet.
I was fixing to say it's not in the packet.
No, it's not.
We got an email, I think, on
You
that.
got an email of it, but we can just put it back on here for next quarter,
Put it back on for next.
because we're not in any huge hurry on what that will be for,
It was about
Komatsu.
115,000.
yeah. It was a little over 100,000. And we can feather that out a little bit, and that is something that we can negotiate, since we are in that negotiation phase. We may want to consider doing that, but we'll put it back on whenever that actually gets in the packet. I'm sorry about that. Since we meet every week, it'll be back on next week. Unless anybody else has anything further on it. Item number 15 is deliberate regarding status and future needs of new CPS court and consider possible action regarding the same. Ricky, you want to give us an update?
Tell us about the pink carpet.
Hot pink carpet.
Yeah, we did, as we talked about last time, we do now know what carpet we used here in the courthouse. And we found that. We got a bunch of color. The product, let's see if I can explain this, the product that we have has been discontinued. The color has been. They have the same product, but they don't have that color anymore. So the sales rep sent an email to me that has about 10 different styles of carpet, and each style has about 10 to 15 different colors that are available. So I've been looking through that. They will send us samples for free. Also, in addition to that, Debbie and I have been working on looking at other options. And the issue that I'm finding is finding a standard there that tells us what the quality is so that we can make sure we're comparing quality to quality. And I'm having a hard time determining if XYZ carpet, if their top line carpet is the same quality level as what we have here. I don't know. Anyway, what my plan is, and with direction from you guys, is pick out 3 or 4 of colors that will be as close to compatible with what we have here as I can find in that, get them to send us some samples, and we'll look at it. Unless you guys want to look at the 79 different colors that are available.
Well, it's pretty easy to kick out the ones that aren't close, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
you're not going to get a red one or a pink one.
Correct.
So I think that, yeah, if you want to get something that's pretty comparable color-wise, neutral color, 3 or 4 different ones, and bring them in here. But no, yeah, I think it's probably going to be much more than 74. I think,
There's a lot of them. Yes.
100 different color samples.
And I can send all of you guys that email if y'all want to look.
But it's a neutral color and a...
Earth tone, pretty much. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
And I'm assuming we'd be looking for one color for this courtroom and then a different color for the
yeah.
annex.
And we're going to do the floor and the,
Well, yeah, since we'll probably have to match, or we can't really match, this particular color is no longer here.
I
We'd have to
measured
do-
the whole room.
Yeah, no, we'd have to do the whole thing.
I mean, I don't know.
Which these squares could turn around and be used in
Yes.
other areas as fill-in
We can
too.
put them in back stock with the
Yeah,
others.
I
yeah.
don't know that a slight contrast would matter once you step up onto the.
It may
whatever we
not.
call this platform or whatever it is.
But, and that's, I think you get as close as you can get to kind of this style or look. or
There's some
color.
that are in the ballpark.
And then we get 3 or 4 for across the street too, and then we can kind of go from there. But,
Right.
you're talking a neutral color, like Leon said, we're not doing red or hot pink or
This
neon.
isn't rocket science. We're just trying to get a neutral color to kind of
Well,
match
I mean, there's hundreds of different ones, so.
Well,
We don't need a
That means
workshop to
there's
pick out
hundreds of
carpet.
different
you want me to
chances of
come
me
and look
getting it
at them
wrong.
and help you decide which 4 to get?
We will.
Like,
do
it'd be all right with me.
If you wanna-
I will look at the samples and.
I'll send you the email so you can
Oh, no,
have-
no, we're going to look at them together.
Okay.
I would suggest you talk with the CPS judge as well.
Okay.
And may have some alternative
Yeah,
thoughts on coloring
Okay.
that,
But I imagine if you get a nice earth tone kind of
Yeah.
matching what's there, she's going to be
I think
happy,
it'll be-
especially if it's new.
yeah,
Just don't make it hot pink or
glow in the dark
bright
or
red
anything
or
like
glow
that.
in the dark purple or something.
I understand. The other update is the contractor built on the wall this weekend. The wall is framed up over there. I have an electrician over there now putting a couple of electrical outlets in, so there'll be one electrical outlet in each one of those rooms. And I discussed it with Darrell, and he said there would be no need for data because they can Wi-Fi, there's a Wi-Fi modem or whatever right there. So we'll just have an outlet in case they need to plug a laptop in or something. The question I have about it, is there a plan to put some type of furniture in there, desk or something?
You might have a little, we probably need to put a little round table or something in those.
A couple of chairs and a
With a
round
few
table.
chairs.
It's just consultation rooms, is that what we
Yeah.
decided?
So, I mean, small round table with 3 or 4 chairs is probably sufficient.
6 foot apart.
I don't have anything like that, so.
Yeah, we'd have to
We
order
can,
that.
we can
That's-
get that.
Right, I'm
So
just,
I need to,
Yeah, we kind of get some pricing on that and we'll put it back on. Or
Basically what she said.
Yeah, pretty similar to what you're sitting at or something comparable that's, or something, I don't know that we've got anything small like that over there right now, but office chairs.
What?
Like a,
Brunch table.
He's always
Yeah.
hungry. He's always hungry.
so that's about all I've got on it.
anything further on that? If not, item 15 will be no action. Thank you, Ricky. Item 16 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding FEMA grant 2015 flood. Do we
I
have
think
any?
it's still raining from 2015.
We are being assigned new people from Cone Resnick.
Yes.
I don't think that's fair. No, I think you need to have to deal with the same ones I'm dealing with.
We learned that on Friday.
No, it's new people for both.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes, for both,
For both FEMA.
for the COVID and the flood.
Really. Spent 2 days putting together a plan to finish out the last year or so that I need to do. And you sat in on how to fill the fields out, and Amber spent 2 days writing it up, filling it out. Andrea Lowe called back and said, where's the plan? And she said, well, I filled it out. Well, that's not enough detail. And she said, but I filled it out like you all said to fill it out.
Yeah, well, they sent it back Saturday morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good luck.
What,
I told her to write some more.
well, she said some of the fields were blank or something.
I don't know. They looked all full to me, but
So no action on 16. Item number 17 is executive session in compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act 551 of the Government Code. Personnel matter, consultation with attorney, and deliberation regarding security devices and audits. It is 10:43. And we'll We're waiting on the commissioner. I think he ran off. There he is. Good. Okay, it is 11:39. We are back in regular session. Number 18 is deliberate, consider possible action regarding FEMA grant DR 4485. And I don't know, we probably can handle this food procurement agreement as part of either one of the next two items.
Got budget amendments to go with it?
Do what?
Have a budget amendment or anything to go with that?
No, we need to do a budget amendment on that. We'll have it ready. Probably have to do a budget amendment on the food procurement thing, won't we? And have it for next court, but we'll go ahead and be ready to. Yeah, but we just need to be able to move the funds. And we'll take care of this under this because this is issued under guidance or association with FEMA policy on as well. Because of the ongoing economic and pandemic issues we're facing, what we're looking to do is enter into a food procurement agreement between Volunteers in Service to Others, which is VISTO, and Cooke County to help provide for food needs.
We can waive the reading.
I'm not going to read through 2.5 pages of this, but I was just going to give a little overall because of the need that this is generated now with a number of people and not just from an economic standpoint, but also from just a societal standpoint. This agreement would be $5,000 to assist VISTO in food procurement for the next 30 days, and then we'll reevaluate for potential another 30 days after that. But I would make the motion we enter into this food procurement agreement with VISTO.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Snuggs. Further discussion?
How much extra food do you know? They're doing many times more than they normally do.
They've increased almost tenfold in the past month.
I think it's important for everybody to know.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, and this is basically a match. You're going to get about, 80% return when you go through the Tarrant County Food Bank for the purchase?
Their ability to purchase it at very, very, very low cost.
Yeah.
So this is,
Magnified
it's
considerably.
magnified considerably.
Yeah.
And there is the ability to get some FEMA funds to help offset most of this cost at the
Yeah.
local level.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's not just, it's unprecedented what they're going through, and we're trying to help them out, basically.
But yes, the point being that they've increased their food giving each week. Each week that they have done it since middle of last month, and that has magnified by approximately, I believe the last numbers I looked at was about 8-fold, but I know their numbers last week were even higher than that. So it's probably closer to 10-fold since all this started.
I heard it was like 18,000
It was over,
wheat or something.
yeah, about 18,000 pounds, yeah. Yeah. It's substantial.
Wow.
Do have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item number 19 is deliberate and consider possible action regarding public health emergency declaration for COVID-19. I don't have any suggested action on this. We are still under that disaster, but I want to take a little time and talk about kind of where we go from here and potentially what we may be looking at as this thing unfolds. It's an ever-evolving situation, so there is a lot of unknown. But one of the big conversation topics that's happening all the way from the national level down to the local level is potentially reopening some of the businesses and lessening some of the restrictions that are currently in place. We are still under the governor's declaration, and we mirrored that declaration locally. through the end of April, so another approximately 10 days. As far as restrictions, I think the governor plans to, he came out with some guidance on Friday or some direction on Friday. A few days before that, the White House came out with some guidance for what states need to be looking at when they consider reopening. Kind of came up with a 3-phase plan. The governor, I know, formed a business task force to get input on how to reopen some of the closed businesses and how to do that in a responsible way. And supposed to, hopefully within the next week or so, be making some more statements about where that's looking for the state of Texas. We are having some conversations locally about how that looks. Obviously, we're looking to the state and to the federal government for where their direction is on this, but a number of those decisions will ultimately come down to being made, at least to some extent, on the local level. And I know when there's a lot of businesses, and I know each one of us has heard from them that are helping come up with ways. And so I guess my thought process is, and for anybody that reads this in the newspaper or watches this, we are open to ideas, although a lot of those ideas are coming from the state level or from the federal level. Be in contact with your state and federal representatives to let them know ideas if you're in one of these impacted areas, impacted businesses, because we're trying to figure out a way to do this in a responsible manner. It will be based on how, at least from the local level, on how it's impacting, what the potential impacts of COVID-19 are. We only have a handful or less confirmed cases in Cooke County, so the impacts so far are low, but we don't exist in a vacuum. So we have to be cognizant of what's going on around us as well, which is part of that decision making. But I wanted to open it up and get anybody else's thoughts on part of that process.
Don't believe everything you read on Facebook.
No, don't believe everything you read on Facebook.
But if we won't try to respond to everything that we hear from Facebook.
But if you're one of the affected businesses with all the shutdowns, we do have to follow the governor's order. That's the most important thing right now that everybody needs to understand. But if you are in an affected business, you should be thinking about ways to make your business safe to satisfy the governor's office. And by that I mean, how can you protect your customers? What kind of plan can you come up? Everybody ought to develop a plan on how they intend to keep their customers safe and discuss it with each other, because it may take a little while yet, but at least they're talking about it on a national level and a state level, how we're going to bring this all back. And I promise you, if you just ignore all of the rules that come out of Washington and Austin, you won't get to open up as fast as you would normally. You need to have a plan. Everybody needs to be thinking about it. We're one day closer.
And that goes not only for employers, but also for employees and customers when you go into any of these businesses. Even if you go to Walmart or a grocery store, this all works better when we're in it together, when we're trying to take responsibility for ourselves and our own actions and be cognizant of the situation we're in. So we can't solve all the problems on the local level, but together we can help minimize the impact to our community and to our state. So it takes buy-in, and it takes efforts from everybody involved. Everybody needs to be intentional about their actions.
In the governor's conference call on Friday, that was one of his issues, or one of his points was, if you have any ideas on how to make it more safe for your customers until this passes by, they want to know. They want to know, they're looking for ideas. I believe they want it opened up pretty bad too.
Yeah,
Everything from, that would include your churches, everything. How can you bring your people back and keep them safe?
And so, and this won't be, according to both the White House and the governor's office, this won't be a just automatic on-off switch on everything gets back up, but it's going to be a slow, measured response, and it's going to probably take several weeks, or if not more, and there's going to be a lot of analysis along the way as to what the impacts of each step would be. But at this time, we don't have a lot of guidance just yet for individual sectors. Hopefully in the coming days and coming weeks, we'll have a little bit more of that. But those conversations are happening at the local level, at each level of government, because I think everybody wants the same goal here. It's to reopen our economy, reopen our businesses, but do so in a responsible way. Anything else? Item number 19 will be no action on it. Item number 20 is deliberate and consider possible action on personnel matters. Since I'm sure most people are aware, we are doing some testing here in Cooke County. Right now it's 3 days a week being tested behind NTMC. As part of that process, I think it's advisable to bring on some part-time individuals to help with that, because the testing part looks like it's going to be a longer, ongoing measurement tool that we use for the next several weeks, several months, or more. So I think it would behoove us to bring on 5 part-time positions to help with that process, being rotated, not necessarily all serving at the exact same time. So I would open that up for thoughts.
Motion.
Take
I'll
one.
make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Snug to hire 5 part-time people for COVID-19, not for any other purposes, but for this emergency declaration situation we're in, at $12 an hour.
Just like you stated, there's my motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Snug
This will be out to help traffic control.
to help the non-medical part of setting up with or managing that operation. Because these are not medical experts. We'll leave the medical part to the medical experts. I'll second that motion. Further discussion?
And just adding to that, all of our county departments and offices are still busy doing other things. Our road and bridge departments are busy. We can't spare any help, so.
Well, it's not just that. We get reimbursed for 75%
Well, yeah,
of this. When we send our own people out to do this, we don't get reimbursed for that. We're taking them away from their normal day-to-day duties, and we're not going to get reimbursed for that, at least if we hire some temporaries or part-times.
We'll have FEMA reimbursement for it.
FEMA's supposed to reimburse us for that. So it's good for the taxpayer.
And you have, just so everybody's clear, previously we've had other staff that have helped out, so this isn't necessarily a ramp up, but those individuals are taking away from doing jobs that they were hired to do to assist with this. As this progresses into what looks like even a more long-term situation, at least as far as the testing is concerned, it makes more sense, both financially and from a departmental standpoint, from helping out with other departments, to bring on part-time employees to assist with the COVID-19 response. Any further discussion? We do have a motion and a second. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0. Item number 21 is future agenda items. We'll put the CTIF back on there. It wasn't on there this meeting. anything else. I'll make sure that the annex remodel gets back on
Annex
there.
gets put back on.
And then we need to put the radio thing on here at some point, but I don't know.
Of course, they had my name on the agenda, but your name on the CPS court.
Oh, on the, yeah, in the, anything else?
No.
If not, 22 is to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Leon Clement,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hollowell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion passes 5-0.